Richard's in the news again. Well, I'm not in the news. I'm kind of making news happen. I put a video out the other day, which obviously was from a live stream, and many of you will remember it. There's a Norwegian journalist called Erik Fossum, and he interviewed Ellen Yu-Jung-moon, who is the president of the Norwegian Esports Federation. And that interview was batshit insane. Because in that interview, I mean, the questions were brilliant by Erik, but in that interview, they essentially admitted that, no, we can't really guarantee your safety if you're gay or trans and you go to a Saudi Arabian esports event, which for me, that's the bare minimum you should be able to guarantee, right? If you're going to run an event of any kind. The other thing they admitted within it is, yeah, listen, Russia doesn't want to change its opinion, so we're boycotting Russia and we're having nothing to do with Russia. But Saudi definitely wants to change, and it's nothing to do with that big bag of money that they're giving us. Now, obviously, while I'm definitely not a fan of the Russian regime or Putin or any of that stuff before anyone starts slinging that at me, the reality is, at least their attitudes towards homosexuality aren't linked to divine providence. So that's a bit of a hurdle to overcome, essentially, when you're a theocracy. So I'd say there's more chance of Russia getting progressive before Saudi does. Let's just set the table on that one, right? So, but anyway, no, Russia am bad, Saudi am good. That was the takeaway from the interview, which really shows just the rank hypocrisy of everybody that's queuing up for, like hogs at a trough. Well, anyway, that article went out and I noticed it and I highlighted it on my stream. Eric's been in touch and said, wow, thanks for doing that. He was stoked to have his work discussed, so I'm very happy for him. He seems a cool guy. And anyway, when my video went out, it appears that they did not like an English-speaking audience, a non-Norwegian audience, kind of critically breaking down the stupid answers that they gave. So the president, Ellen Yu-Jung-moon, the president of the Norwegian Esports Federation, they got in touch with Pressfire.no, which is the website that ran the initial interview, and they wanted a right to reply, and so they've put an opinion piece out today to clarify their point, which is just fantastic that I've kind of like nudged them into doing this by highlighting how insane their interview is. And I just noticed this before I went live, so I haven't even read this yet. I can't wait to see what it says or how they're gonna contradict what they said in the previous interview. But I'm fascinated. So yeah, that was happening. So let's have a look at it. They've also, I think they've put up an official English tab now, a little button you can press, which I'm hoping is gonna play nice with. You see, it isn't gonna play nice. The button does, but the background doesn't. So it just looks like I've just great. We'll go to big. Don't worry, we'll bang it in. We'll bang it in the archive. Now it's not gonna fix it. Because there's not a direct link to the English translation, is there? I'll pop the link in the chat, and then you can read along. And I might have to show the Norwegian, just for visual. Yeah, give you guys something to look at besides my head. And I'll read the English to you. So just 1 second while we do that. We'll chill. But I thought it was a nice little surprise to basically get that, kind of information that, they were so fucking peeved. That they felt compelled to issue a response. So I mean, again, it was like that question the other day. Why do you do this? Well, this is why. This is absolutely why. Because I think I'm a prominent enough voice, and by speaking out on these issues, you do fucking rock the boat. And if it's all I do is rock the boat, and that's all I do. But it's better than nothing. All right, 1 second. We're nearly there. We can cut all this out, by the way, Griff. I've also been chopping up another You Speak Your Brains for probably later on in the week. I might have to have a day off tomorrow. I got company coming soon and for a housewarming. And I do want everything to be unpacked by then. So I might have to have a day off tomorrow, guys. But yeah, after the Loba video, I mean, it was like shooting fish in a fucking barrel, guys. There was just so many dumb fucking comments. Right, come on. There we go. Okay, so remember, you're looking at the Norwegian version. I apologize for that, by the way, Eric, if you watch this video. It's not me, it's OBS, as you can see. For some reason, your website doesn't display properly when I put it into OBS. I don't know why, but there it is, right? So you can see Esports Forbundet. Norwegian. Right, anyway, so the Norwegian Esports Federation. We want to clarify our point, and this is a guest opinion piece by Ellen Yu Jung-moon. The work Eric Fossum does, that's the journalist that wrote the original article and did the original interview, the work Eric Fossum does in Norway to raise awareness of esports in major news outlets is crucial, and I'm personally extremely grateful for his efforts. I suspect some of the points in the article are misunderstood by the readers. It was you wacky readers and your silly misunderstandings. And I'd like to set the record straight. Our perspective is in line with the Norwegian Sports Confederation and the IOC, the International Olympic Committee. We've also consulted with the Swedish Esports Federation as they participated in the Global Esports Federation's Global Esports Games in Riyadh in November 2023. At that time, Norway was not a member of the Global Esports Federation and did not participate. Unfortunately, Sweden lost in the qualifying rounds and the players did not get the chance to travel to Riyadh themselves. Instead, the Swedish General Secretary went there and attended the General Assembly. Sweden conducted an internal evaluation and found no significant issues regarding the safety of sending both players and delegates to Riyadh. We have had in-depth discussions with Sweden regarding LGBTQ plus safety both before and after the Global Esports Games. Our own assessment that it is safe for both delegates and players to participate comes from a dialogue with NIF, the Swedish Esports Federation, and one of our own Norwegian clubs that participated in the tournament there last summer. It was my mistake not to have been clear about this in the interview with Eric. So just before we read on, I do have to say that's not going to cut it for me. The problem with this framing, and indeed the problem with the whole situation is, it is safe until it isn't. And what do I mean by that? So look, I can tell you a little bit from behind the scenes. And again, I'm kind of caring less and less about who I upset, in esports, because really, it's a terrible business now. It's a terrible business to be in, and I'm sick and tired of people's excuses and carrying water for fucking diabolical regimes and everything else. So just fuck them, right? But basically, for, let's say, tournament operators that may or may not be having events in Riyadh, the general consensus has been quietly behind the scenes, we'll keep you safe, don't worry. Now, the esports organizations and the participants all seem to be happy about that. But that in itself is quite instructive of the fact that there is a problem. If you have to guarantee safety, that implies that your safety may not be guaranteed without the umbrella protection of the money-making apparatus. And so that is what's going on behind the scenes, that basically all these esports orgs are being encouraged that it is safe to attend the Esports World Cup Gamers 8. Nothing will happen to any of your players regardless of their identity, sexual identity, whatever it is. Right? Now, that to me is also gross, because if you are like, yeah, I support gay rights and we must have equal standing between people regardless of, sexual identity, gender identity, right? If you're that person and then you're willing to travel to a tournament in a country that criminalizes homosexuality, knowing you're going to get special treatment that the citizens of that country don't enjoy, that makes you, as a member of the LGBT community, complicit in the persecution of LGBT people, which is what they're going to do to you. This is how you're going to get used and how you're going to get played. My advice would be quite simple. If you are gay or trans, do not go to a country that criminalizes your identity. It is playing with fire. And I don't care if they say the old bigoted, as long as you don't do anything on the streets, as long as you keep it to yourself, as long as you don't express yourself, like you're going to be okay. What if you accidentally just thoughtlessly held hands and you get arrested? And as I said, it is a matter of time. We are playing with such fire with this Riyadh stuff. The more and more we go there, and the more and more people from esports go there, the closer and closer we get to an incident. And I don't believe that now that we are having Riyadh as the, no pun intended, mecca of esports, I don't believe we are going to go without an incident. It seems incredible to me. It's like we managed to avoid a serious incident in terms of a lapse of security. And even then, you might say we didn't, because if you remember that Madden event that had a fatal shooting at it, where I knew people that worked at that event, we walked the line and skimped on security repeatedly until people died. That's what we do in esports. It's not a problem till it is a problem. And trust me, on a long enough timeline, someone is going to go to Riyadh and they are going to do something that would be perfectly fine anywhere else in the civilized world, but isn't fine in Riyadh, and they're going to get arrested for it. And then all the lobbying and all the, we're going to keep you safe and don't worry, we're in talks with the royal family, all of that isn't going to matter, because they are going to have to set a precedent while all the eyes of the world are watching. So you can say that, the Swedes went and they said it was safe. And by the way, also in her language, she's sort of hedging the, what is safety? Like, were they safe because they, just played the tournament and then were shuttled back to a hotel room and told don't come out? That wouldn't be acceptable either, right? So I find that interesting. The other part to this as well is that obviously the trans issue in Saudi isn't even necessarily about the identity. The issue would be if, for example, you were a male to female transgender, there is a real chance that if you dressed in the clothing of the gender identity you've adopted, you could be arrested for violating Saudi strict dress codes. I don't understand how you insulate against that when those are the laws. So we can pretend, if you want, that it's all fine and dandy, but it isn't fine and dandy. Anyway, and by the way, if it was fine and dandy, why not just say that in your interview? Next up, she continues, the Norwegian Esports Federation does not receive any payment or compensation for collaborating with the Saudi Arabian Esports Federation. Well, no, you don't directly get a check. We know that. What you get to do is have Norwegian esports organizations participate in high-level, high-profile tournaments, which will promote them, promote Norway, promote Norwegian sponsors, and it doesn't cost Norway a dime. Not because you're getting a check from Saudi, but because Saudi underwrite the costs of attendance. So again, it is disingenuous to pretend that just because they're literally not handing you a bag of money, like with the word fucking swag on it or something, that you're not being, there's no financial benefit to you being in bed with Saudi Arabia. Of course there is. Every country wants to grow its esports sector for a variety of reasons. You are now working with a government that will underwrite your participation in high-profile events. The country itself is a monarchy in transition, and the Esports Federation is trying to initiate change within the country and among its youth. We support their efforts to start activities for children and young people aimed at increasing acceptance of inclusion and diversity across all genders. Do you want to name these initiatives? I've not seen any. I haven't seen a single initiative in Saudi Arabia aimed at young people to promote diversity and inclusion of gay and trans people. Please link me to one if it exists. I know it doesn't. So I'd really like to know. And again, very instructive. You don't name what this is in your opinion piece, which, if you can call it that. Propaganda piece would probably be a more accurate assessment. Yeah, not really seeing that. Not really seeing that anywhere. What I am seeing is a recent article on Human Rights Watch about how they arrested and imprisoned a Yemeni blogger who was living in Riyadh because he was promoting homosexuality online and imitating women, and got 10 months in prison where he was beaten repeatedly and forced to confess that he was gay. So I don't know. I mean, do let me know about those initiatives, though. I'd love to hear more about those initiatives, those very real initiatives where the royal family are promoting to the youth of Saudi Arabia tolerate gay people. I'd love to see that. I would love to. Please inform me. Then it goes on to say, I personally, as someone who belongs to a minority in Norway and comes from a country where equality is not as highly valued as in the Nordic countries, find it questionable to close the door when people reach out seeking collaboration to improve and change the status quo. That's not why Saudi Arabia reached out. They didn't reach out to the fucking Norway Esports Federation to say, oh, teach us what's wrong about our theocratic regime. They didn't do that. What they did do is, we want to be influential and profitable. Well, not even profitable, just influential and powerful in as many areas as possible, for in entertainment, in sports, in everything. And we will require your cooperation for that to be true. But don't worry, we've got all this money, so I'm sure we can make it work. That's what happened. Again, show me where the Saudi Arabian monarchy said to you that they want advice on how to change. Show it me. You can't show it to me. It did not happen. Objectively, it did not happen. We are in dialogue with Amnesty International about how to develop a strategy for Norway and the Nordic countries on how we can contribute internationally to hold all nations in IESF accountable for adhering to the UN's human rights laws. Good luck with that. I believe that esports can surpass football/handball in terms of shared values. All delegates and federations in the IESF are driven by young, idealistic gamers who grew up without borders on the internet. We are not constrained by outdated us versus them thinking. I'll tell you who is. The Saudi Arabian government. And we are committed to making changes in the esports community. We all share a common goal of elevating the recognition of esports and building a healthy grassroots movement in all member countries, focusing on equality, fairness, inclusion, and human rights. And while we may not always have the same ability to influence politicians and governments, we can at least come together and work to improve and be a force for the much needed changes across the globe within our esports and gaming community. Which is a long-winded way of just saying utter garbage. You know, it's like, look, I get it. It's very hard to operate in esports now and avoid Saudi, but you can't be taken seriously if you're going to publicly protest how much you support the LGBT community and say, no, we really do support them. We're only doing business with a regime that persecutes them so we can change them in the long run. Saudi Arabia, they might want to change the landscape of their country. They don't want to change their values. They don't want to change their religious beliefs. It is absurd on its face to even suggest that is on the table as something that could happen. Yeah, listen, Crown Prince, look, I know that you live in a very strict theocracy, and everyone is expected to be an adherent to your country's interpretation of Islam. And you've had a real problem, actually, with Wahhabist sects in the past. But do you think we can just make it now so it's totally acceptable within Islam for homosexual people to exist? Is that all right? Can we just change that, yeah? Can we rip out a few pages of that Quran? Fuck off. To even suggest that you are an apostate. What nonsense. It's absolutely insulting to the intelligence of people that read that response to try and imply that Saudi Arabia are in some sort of dialogue about these issues. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. As far as they are concerned, the Quran is the word of God, and not just the word of God, mind you, the final word of God, the absolute last time God will ever address humanity, and anything that comes after it is false. That is what the Quran says. So there's no way they're moving on any of their values on that issue. It's quite important. It's so crazy to even suggest it. So yeah, I thought that was like mega. Like, what to issue that response and basically, I mean, ultimately said nothing there, nothing of value. But the problem remains the same. These are the people you are going to be looking to support you. If you're a gay esports competitor, if you're a trans esports competitor, hell, if you're a woman esports competitor, you're looking to your esports federations and the people that sort of, have ties to government and control funding. You're looking at these people to support you and to help you progress, and they are going to lie to your face. They're going to lie to your face about what is safe and what isn't, what you can and can't do, where you can and can't go, because they don't want to insult the wealthiest party in the room. Think about that. It's like, was it Diogenes that said, in the rich man's house, there is no place to spit but in his face? And that's the problem we've got into with Saudi, that any sort of even mild critique will be perceived as an insult to such a degree you would be pushed out. And so not only must we lie about these things, but we must also really stifle the discussion. And you've seen how that works, because this is tied to everything. This is tied to the Rainbow Rioters saying in a Slack group, no, it's a good thing, actually. We go to Saudi, we completely rebrand Pride Month, we mix the colours of the rainbow around a little bit, and by the way, if they use Twisted Fate at the World Cup, big W for gay people, while gay people, for no crime whatsoever, are languishing in prison simply because of their identity in the country you are now promoting. Gays for Saudi Arabia, queers for Palestine. It's like trees for deforestation. You have got to wake the fuck up.